Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMS Cast. I'm joined by two very special guests. We've got Michael Eisenwasser and Wes Tatters. They're from Rapid Cloud, which is innovating in the hosting space, particularly for sites that have a lot of dynamic content, have a lot of concurrent users. This is a big challenge in our industry. They're here with the solution at Rapid Cloud. But first, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And Michael was actually a guest on the show, I think about 9 years ago, a very early guest. So it's really fun to connect after a decade. Before we get into the Rapid story, tell us about the history here, because this came from the Buddy Boss world. So tell us how it's involved.
Sure. So I had been running Buddy Boss with my partner, Tom, for the last 14 years. So we've been in this industry for a long time, and Buddy Boss was actually acquired just a little while ago in June. And Buddy Boss also has been a good partner with Lifter LMS for a lot of these years. Many of our customers, when they want an LMS, they work with Lifter LMS. And so Buddy Boss has social networking features. Lifter LMS has the courses, and probably more than half the Buddy Boss customers were doing social learning. And that is really hard to host. So that was the biggest challenge that our customers would face. And the biggest pain point for most of the customers was that they could not find adequate hosting anywhere in the WordPress world. And so they would either, if they got any level of success, they'd have, if you have a normal WordPress site that's like a blog, it's pretty straightforward to host. You can just do hard page caching. But if you're trying to host a site where every single user is seeing unique content, that's where it gets challenging. So on a Buddy Boss site, you have a community. Imagine you're like Facebook. Every person who's logged in has a different newsfeed, different messages, different profile. They're effectively seeing a different website. So if you have 100 people logged in at the same time, your server has to create 100 websites. And then you add an LMS on top of it. And now every course, every quiz, it's all unique. Not every course, but every their progression through the course and their progression through the quiz and all that. It's all notifications. It's all unique per user. So our customers couldn't find adequate hosting. Sites would crash during launches. The only solution they had was to go to a traditional host and pay for like the top tier hosting plan. They were afraid that it might crash, so they'd be paying exorbitant amounts to have enough overhead all the time. And so we can go into it and tell the whole story, but basically we created a first-party hosting solution that provides something that does not exist in the WordPress market. We provide hosting for sites that have a lot of concurrent users who are seeing different types of content. Rapid is built from the ground up to service those users. And if you have that kind of site, you'd be shocked at how fast it is on Rapid and how competitively priced it is for that customer base, because it's all built around it. So it's very efficient at doing that.
Let's just take a moment to celebrate the innovation in the room here. And what I mean by that is we took WordPress and then Buddy Boss brought Facebook to your WordPress website. Lifter LMS brought like Udemy to your WordPress website. These are incredible innovations in the space when you really think about it. And of course, when you think about it in the traditional software market, the way you described Facebook was great, how everybody's essentially getting a different website, or somebody taking a course has unique things on their screen and unique quiz questions and progress and all this stuff. It's heavy on hosting. And I feel like this part of the market has been underserved simply because I think it's just in the grand scheme of things, it's a smaller fraction of the, where hosting companies get their customers from, but it's an important piece of the internet that has special needs and attention required. So take us into the tech a little bit. Like what has the traditional hosting industry just not been doing to really accommodate dynamic, high concurrent user sites?
Sure. So Wes can take over that. I'll just introduce Wes. Although some people may know who he is. He's pretty well known in the WordPress world. Wes is a server architect mastermind who has designed at a high level our whole server stack for Rapid. And so with that, Wes can answer.
I think one of the challenges for dynamic hosting is that there's no one solution fits all the boxes. Traditional hosting is a set of boxes. You have this size box, this size box, or this size box. And for dynamic hosts, it's the big box. It's the box that's not going to crash when their site has a new marketing campaign that launched on, or a product that goes viral in a WooCommerce platform, or a new, cohort starting of classes. The traditional solution, once you're in this dynamic space, is you'll initially be told, well, you need a VPS, or you need 8 CPU cores, or 32 gigabytes of RAM. You'll be told specific, numbers that you're supposed to meet to try to achieve what you need at that peak point in time. The problem is most of us don't need that 8 CPU cores or 16 CPU cores or 150 workers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But to achieve that in the standard hosting world, that's what you have to do. You have to go and buy a product which is often very expensive or overpriced in terms of what you really need, instead of a product that suits your needs. So we started from the ground up looking at what BuddyBoss customers needed. First, we realized that most BuddyBoss customers are shaped. What that means is that at different times of the day or different times of the week, they have different user experiences. Some sites might have load in the morning. Some sites might have loads in the evening. Some sites might only be busy on a Saturday. So that was our starting point, designing a platform that didn't punish people or penalize people for the periods of time when they weren't busy. And
Yeah.
that was our starting point. It's finding a way to even out or balance out or average out a customer's utilization across a period of time. So at Rapid, we don't technically sell CPU cores. Yes, if you look at our site, you'll find mentions of our plans are like 2 CPU cores or like 4 CPU cores. But what we're actually doing is simply selling people processing resources. So if you need a lot of resources or a lot of processing power on a Monday morning, you have availability and access to that when you need it. Providing you average out your load across a week, you don't then get penalized for that spike where all of a sudden at Thursday afternoon you need 150 concurrent users or 1,000 concurrent users. So it's designing the architecture in a way that is different to a traditional hosting platform. To do that, we built it on top of some of the best infrastructure available. We use Amazon. We're an AWS partner. We utilize their latest high performance resources at all times. So you're not on a Rapid platform getting a small CPU core or an old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old processor. This is the other problem we have with traditional hosts. If you look at the problem of hosting, we have a term called race to the bottom, and it's been happening in the WordPress space for some time. How can we get it cheaper? How can we get it cheaper? How can we get it cheaper? And the way hosting companies get their hostings cheaper is not to upgrade them. They don't put modern CPU cores in because that costs money. So we'll just run it on the CPU cores we've been running for the last 5 or 10 years. We don't improve our platform performance. We don't improve our network performance because all those things cost money. So what you wind up with is product that over time are running on infrastructure which is incredibly old. Some of the hosting companies out there are running data centers, big data centers, that to upgrade will cost a small fortune. So they leave them where they are. They're sitting on 1st and 2nd generation Intel CPU cores. We're now on 5th generation CPU cores. They were, being launched this week in terms of server. Rapid will always be on the latest product that's available. Currently, we're running exclusively on AMD 4th generation CPU cores in the server space. So it's about choosing a platform and choosing a product that's ideally suited to the dynamic space.
Mhm.
Latest technology, best infrastructure, and best practices right across the board.
Yeah, we'll even upgrade the CPUs in the background for an existing plan of the customer, which we've done
Yeah.
since launching.
Yeah, as new technology becomes available, everything updates. The customer doesn't even know it's happening. We doubled our disk performance in the last 2 months, increasing all of our disk infrastructure. It just happened. The customers aren't aware that anything's happening inside the infrastructure. That's our sort of objective, and that's our guarantee long term, that we'll always be there ensuring that what our customers get is best for their needs.
That's great. And that's a great philosophy to have from day one as you build the company. I think one of the challenges of the hosting industry for non-engineering users, which is most users, is they hit a pricing page or a compare page and they get a little lost in the technology. So just for a short spot in this interview, could you kind of give us some high level education on, CPU, RAM, PHP workers? Like, what does this mean? Like, we're supposed to, as a non-technical buyer, we're supposed to like, oh, well, I think I need this or that, but we don't really know. So can we kind of do a public service and level up some understanding of that?
Yeah, 100%. Look, PHP is our underlying platform. It's the software that ensures that WordPress runs. PHP is a very mature product, but also comes with its own set of problems. Every time someone requests a page on a website, it requires what's called a PHP worker. So that's a program that's going to run to generate that page request. The number of PHP workers that are available on your hosting controls the number of page requests that can happen at the same time. It's that simple. If your site says you've got 10 PHP workers, then it's impossible to generate more than 10 simultaneous requests, because those PHP workers are single-threaded. They're exclusive to that page request. So if you've got a site with 10 people visiting at the same time, then 10 PHP workers will be running every time that page request hits. Now, the problem is, when we get into big WordPress sites, might be 100 concurrent users. So now we're talking about something that might need 100 PHP workers to generate all those simultaneous page requests. On top of that, we have sites like BuddyBoss and Lifter that use Ajax or REST requests. Every one of those requests also needs a PHP worker. So in BuddyBoss for a number of years, to load the BuddyBoss activity feed used to take 4 page requests. So it would load the main page, it would then load the activity feed, it would then load a notification window, and it would load a messaging window. That's 4 PHP workers, 4 concurrent requests to generate that single page of information. Again, now you add 100 concurrent users on the site, and all of a sudden you've got quite a lot of performance load. The other challenge with the PHP worker is that PHP workers need exclusive memory. So while a PHP worker is running, it needs a little block of RAM that's available to it and only it. Now, on a small blogging site, it might be a simple blog, you might only need 20 or 30 megabytes of RAM exclusively allocated to that PHP worker. On a dynamic site with BuddyBoss, Lifter, WooCommerce, we have sites that need 250 megabytes of RAM to load that page, to do all the processing. Similarly, in WP Admin, we have sites potentially needing up to 1 gigabyte of memory to handle all that background processing when you're in a block builder like Gutenberg. All of the juggling that's happening requires a lot of extra memory. So PHP workers are uniquely linked to two things: a number of concurrent users and the amount of available memory inside your hosting. So if your host says, for example, you've got unlimited PHP workers, well, it doesn't make sense. Because to have unlimited PHP workers would mean you needed unlimited memory. And we all know that your plan only gave you 16 gigabytes of RAM, or 8 gigabytes of RAM, or maybe 32. So we get into a lot of marketing jargon that doesn't necessarily match up with our technology needs. We then get into challenges about what that all means. The first question comes CPU. So a CPU obviously is a computer. We know what a computer is. We know that our iPhone has a CPU in it. We know that our computer and our laptop has a CPU in it. The CPU is the processing unit that does all the work. No two CPUs, however, are created equal. It's a bit like buying a 4-cylinder engine car or an 8-cylinder engine car. You can actually buy 2 4-cylinder engine cars, one that's super powerful and one that's incredibly slow, because they're different versions or different iterations. So over time, most of the hosting companies have wound up in situations where they sell CPU cores at a price point, but not necessarily the latest CPU. So if we look at the CPU world, in the hosting world, there are currently 4 generations of hosting server CPUs available from both AMD and Intel that work with WordPress. Very recently, AMD have just released their 5th generation CPU cores. Each time a new CPU core is released, the main thing that they're trying to achieve is better performance. So which means that CPU, the new model, runs faster. Now, for example, we transitioned during our beta from 3rd generation to 4th generation CPU cores in our platform. We actually delayed our launch by a month. We were working with AWS to ensure that we could launch on a new platform. We received a 30% page load performance increase by changing from a 3rd generation to a 4th generation CPU core. Now, in again, the dynamic world, 30% page load increase is a big win, because the amount of time it takes to generate your page controls concurrency as well. So if your page takes a long time to generate, that means the PHP worker is allocated to that page request for a longer amount of time. So if we can reduce the amount of time it takes to generate that page, we can again increase the amount of concurrency in the platform.
Mm-hmm.
So a business and a technical question here is, as you all looked at developing Rapid Cloud, well, I mean, you know, the market wants like high performance hosting at a great price. And this part of the market that's really good at high traffic, dynamic content, concurrent users. How did you, what insight did you have where you had the aha that I think we can pull this off and create a way better product at a better price? And then how do you do that technically?
Sure. So the insight I had, or Tom and I, again, for years and years, we dealt with seeing BuddyWest customers complaining about performance constantly. And often they would blame the product and say the product's not built efficiently enough or has some performance issue. And we knew if they just were on really good hosting, it would work. There's just the nature of it, like was explained. If you have 100 people logged in at the same time, it is hard to host that, no matter what you do with the product. People don't realize something like Facebook, the amount of resources that go behind it to host it. So we wanted to build a solution for this for a long time, but servers were not our core competency. Our core competency was building software. So, but nonetheless, we did everything we could to improve the performance of BuddyWest itself, make it as efficient as we could. And we had 1 year, a couple of years ago, where I guess about 3 years ago, we pushed out an update to BuddyBoss where we spent months just trying to optimize all the code and make it as efficient as possible, get rid of all the low-hanging fruit, double queries and things like that, optimizing all that. And we spent a long time working on, I believe it was BuddyBoss 1.9.
1.9.
Yeah, 1.9 was this big release, and we wanted to market that we've made the product much more efficient. And so we were trying to figure out how do we run benchmarks on this and prove that it's faster. Because if you have one user logged in, it doesn't really mean much. You have to simulate huge amounts of concurrent users and run benchmarking against that. And we spent a couple of months trying to produce all the data to prove that it was faster and write a blog post and video about it. And so we finally were ready. We pushed the release live and we published our results. And I think it was the same day, Wes is in our Facebook group publishing his results. Saying, you're right, it is faster. And the stuff he was publishing was more sophisticated than what we had. And Wes, and we were shocked by it. And also, Wes had been in our Facebook group for a long time. Anytime people did have these performance issues, Wes would be there like, hey, DM me. And then they'd come back later and post that their site's running fast now that whatever Wes did fixed it. So when this happened, Tom called me and was like, hey, you know what? We got to hire Wes. So we're like, let's hire him and let's finally do this. We had wanted to for a long time. Like, we'd wanted to build something like that for a long time. Like, let's hire Wes, take his recipe and make it the best it can possibly be, put resources behind it, build a development team behind it. Take everything we know from all these years at BuddyBoss. We know how to do customer support. We know how to do software development. And so we took what he had created, which was working really well, and made the best version of it. And then we took all the stuff we know about software development and user experience and built, by the way, an extremely easy to use customer dashboard. So even though Wes is talking about all this technical stuff, customer perspective is not like that. The customer experience,
I don't need to know anything about it.
Super easy to use dashboard. And we've taken care of everything. Like, you can update plugins, you can update themes. We have patch deck on there running, showing if you have security vulnerabilities, and you can update the plugin there. We have WooCommerce settings. We are, not a lot of people know it yet, but we are the fastest host in the world for WooCommerce sites. So we knew we could pull it off because of that. And then once we started building it, before we even had the dashboard available, we had some customers who had apps, BuddyBoss app running, and who were having really big performance issues. And some of these people were paying, thousands of dollars a month in hosting. And they were complaining and saying, we're not sure if we can stay with BuddyBoss because we have all these performance problems and it's getting expensive to host. We said, hey, we have this thing we've been working on in the background. We want to give you private access to this. Dashboard's not ready, but we'll put your stuff on our hosting. And they were just shocked at how fast it was. And the user, once we saw the feedback from the customers, anyone watching, you can go to love.rapid.cloud and see all our testimonials. I mean, it's incredible. Once we saw the feedback from all these customers, one after the next, saying like, you've transformed my whole website. I can't believe how fast it is. That gave us the confidence. We're like, okay, we've really done it. We've pulled it off. And then we decided it was time basically to sell BuddyBoss and focus all of our energy, all of our time, all of our effort on Rapid.
And part of that, what, as I said, we're very closely tied to BuddyBoss, but by being a separate entity, it gives us the ability to open dialogues that possibly would have been harder to have if we were just BuddyBoss. We are here for every dynamic platform, every dynamic. So WooCommerce, Lifter, LearnDash, Tutor LMS, Peepso, the
membership plugins.
The membership
plugins.
We're actively talking with the Fluent team, who are releasing a community product of Fluent Community. It's in late beta now and will be public within weeks. Rapid is ideally suited to those platforms. The reason it's ideally suited is that one of the things that communities do is get successful.
Yeah.
And it's very, very different to have a blog. And I talk with people and say, a lot of people, when they start their WordPress site, are really over the moon when they hit that 100 visitors a month. I've started to get something credible. When they hit that 100 visitors a week, they're starting to go, this might be a business. 100 visitors a day, and they're going, "Yeah, if I can keep doing this, I can give up my day job." The smallest Buddy Boss sites, some of the smallest lifter sites, are actually really quite sad if they're only getting 100 visitors a day, because they're communities. They need people coming in, checking their Facebook or checking their feed, looking at conversations, visiting blogs. If it's a lifter site, they need people to complete the course. They need them to do all the lessons and complete the course. It's a cohort that's joining. It might be a 30-person cohort. They need to get in and do those things. So in this space, the small numbers that people are excited about in a blogging site become quite rapidly, oh, we've got a success problem.
Mhm.
I have a small customer that built a social learning platform based on Buddy Boss to teach Indigenous people in New Zealand, the Maori people, their own language. Like many
Very cool.
Indigenous languages, the cultures
Yeah.
die. She built this little site just to teach the people in her local community. Then last year was approached by the New Zealand government going, could we run this in every classroom? She's now got a Buddy Boss site with thousands of concurrent users at 9 a.m. every day in classrooms across New Zealand. That success is this same problem. Because what we do is different, we need this dynamic server capabilities. And next year, she's told me only recently, she'll have 30,000 people trying to log on Monday morning on the second week of February. Can I handle this? And
That's
we're going to
awesome.
work out how to for her.
I actually have a background in anthropology, and cultural survival is an important topic to me. I also love New Zealand, so that's such a cool story. Maybe you guys can help me answer a question that I'm sure you've gotten to, particularly around Buddy Boss.
Mm.
When people come in and they have questions, they have big hopes and dreams, they're hoping they get 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, sometimes even millions of users on their site. How do you kind of direct them? Then they ask, well, which hosting do I need? Where do I start? And let's say they're
Well, we
looking
just say rapid, but
Yeah.
but
Well, how do you think about that scale? In the past, I've always well, first, it's probably a good idea to pre-sell and, get some validation and just choose a host that can grow with you
Mm.
as your needs change. But yeah, how do you answer that at Rapid? In terms of they're coming in and let's say it works, you're a New Zealand person. How does the relationship and the plans and the pricing work? Particularly what people don't want is for them to get a traffic spike and the site goes down, or their launch is way more successful than they ever thought. How do you think about that relationship of kind of validating and getting started and then just scaling over
Sure.
time?
So our starting plan is if you pay annually $29 a month, and that is not going to handle huge amounts of concurrent users, but that is an entry point. So people can get started on Rapid very inexpensively. The smallest plan we'd recommend for a site that really has concurrent users as a production site, if you pay annually, is $100 a month. So there is a inexpensive entry point into Rapid. And as you grow and as your needs go up, you can bump up to the next plans. And to increase your tier in Rapid, the customer can do it in the dashboard themselves. And it's instantaneous.
Mm.
I mean, really instantaneous, 2 seconds.
One of the things to understand, though, is that even on our cheapest plans, they're on the same server.
Right.
They're on the same CPU cores. They're actually getting the same performance regardless of which plan they're on.
Less
What
concurrency.
really changes as you increase plans is the amount of concurrency or the amount of visits that you have access to within the platform.
We can also speak to as performance boosts. So this is something that's not live yet, but is working technically in the background. We're going to build the dashboard end of it soon. And this will allow customers to schedule in advance, increase in their server resources for a temporary period of time. So you could, let's say you have a launch on Friday, you could schedule in advance, starting Friday morning for the next 48 hours. I want the resources of the top tier plan. And the moment that it begins, all the resources of that top tier plan will be dynamically allotted to your server. And when the period ends, it will drop back down. So that's coming early 2025, and that's going to provide even more flexibility. But even now, because of the auto scaling nature of Rapid, it's very difficult for a site to crash on Rapid infrastructure.
We've done a few where we've worked with customers manually. The Agile the Agile conference this year came to us and said, we use BuddyBoss app. We want to run our BuddyBoss app as a community tool inside the Agile conference. We're going to have between 3,000 and 5,000 people at the conference, and we want to use our BuddyBoss app to publish our calendars, all our session times, and let people communicate with each other. And we did exactly this for them. They came to us and said, hey, from Friday to Monday, can we have a big plan? So we did the boost. They didn't even know it happened. Their product and their conference ran exactly the way they wanted it. BuddyBoss app performed exactly the way they wanted it. Their customers were thrilled. And on the Monday morning, they switched back down to their standard Startup One plan, which they've been using for development, because their website isn't really going to be used now for another 6 months until their next conference. So that's the sort of flexibility that we provide to our customers already, and it will be available in the dashboard, as Mike said, early in the new year as well. But we have a very active customer support and customer success team. One of the things that we knew when we were at BuddyBoss was the importance of support.
So how do you think about support?
They're very differently. We bought with us from BuddyBoss a number of BuddyBoss support team. Everyone at BuddyBoss who was in our support was effectively a PHP plugin developer. They understand PHP, they understand WordPress, they understand plugins. That means that the support team that we brought into Rapid are actually skilled in building WordPress sites. We will go the extra mile with our team to ensure that our customer sites work reliably. We run free performance assessments. We run, free site evaluations, free
migrations. Yeah, we'll migrate your site to Rapid for free, no cost.
And during that migration, we'll fully assess a site. We'll make a performance report analysis give them guidance on plugins that are causing problems, show them how to improve site performance in the plugin level itself, help them with database optimization, platform optimization. We also deliver object caching natively in our product. Object Cache Pro is a native part of what we do. Till's amazing products, and Relay his replacement for Redis that improves performance in factors. And again, for dynamic sites, object caching is the only caching that works. Page caching isn't available.
I'll mention one more thing about support. So our support system, it's not like you send an email and wait 2 hours. It's 24/7 live chat support.
Nice.
With very fast response times. Customer satisfaction, if you look up Rapid Cloud on Trustpilot or go again to love.rapid.cloud, you'll see the testimonials. The customers are very happy with our customer support.
We also built out a native AI-based support platform that adds as an adjunct to our dashboard. So when you arrive at your site, you've got a button down the bottom, open the support. The first question you ask is instantly passed to our AI, and will respond with active answers from a massive knowledge base of information that we've been building and compiling, not just about hosting, but about PHP and about WordPress and about plugins. So on average, our support response time is under 30 seconds.
Did you use DocSpot for that?
No.
No.
It's built as a part of our with our support, our chat system partners. It's a product called Intercom.
Nice.
And as I said, that average response time of 30 seconds from the person asking a question, in many cases, they've in that time also received a set of information from our AI that gets them a starting point. We find that about 35% of our support requests are actually answered successfully just by our AI.
That's awesome. And tell us more about the migration. Is it true like hands-off migration? If somebody's listening to this or watching this and they're like, you know what, I'm ready to make the move. I just want to
It's
sign up for a
entirely
plan and have them move the
entirely
site for
managed.
me. Is that the promise?
Entirely managed. Average migration time is about an hour and a half. We can actually complete a migration. Often the slowest amount of time in the migration is just getting the details that we need out of the customer.
Right.
We will do everything. If a customer gives us access to their Cloudflare account, we will even handle DNS mapping for them. We handle migration through a set of stages. It's fully managed, fully monitored by our platform, and excuse me, and so much so that we actually do 2 migrations. We do an entire test migration to make sure that a customer's site is 100% compatible, 100% suited. I will say this: we don't support older versions of PHP, for example. Some customers are still sitting on PHP 7 point something. For security technology reasons, we don't support PHP. So we assess all of those things before migrations, and we work with customers. We've worked with customers on their old sites, helping them to upgrade and ensure that all their plugins were PHP ready before migration.
That's a great service. Another just public service announcement I wanted to make is that particularly for new people who are, have dreams for their online community, online learning platform, and you see these expensive hosting plans as an example, but the reality is like the Agile conference that you mentioned, they're selling tickets. So you have to have real estate for your website to live on. And the more people that need to get in the door, you need bigger real estate. So it transfers over to hosting. And so it's really just baked into the business plan. You're going to sell more tickets, or, oh, you're on a higher end hosting plan that costs more, but you're also selling, 10,000 courses a month. You're making a lot of money. It's just paying for your real estate or your storefront or your school. It's just part of the deal.
It is a bit of the disconnect with hosting. We see people that are running very successful 6- and 7-figure businesses in BuddyBoss, especially if they're teamed with Lifter or Tutor LMS or other products that enable people to very easily monetize their products. That they do sometimes skimp on the hosting.
Yeah.
We've had customers that were losing their customers because their performance wasn't adequate, because their site, the customer going, this is great, but I can't wait 30 seconds for the BuddyBoss app to load my activity feed. And we're looking at the site going, yeah, but on Rapid, that same activity feed loads in under a second.
Right.
There are reasons to ensure that what you're doing in the hosting space, especially in the dynamic space, is paid for, and is recompense. I mean, I've got some small BuddyBoss sites that are still my old customers. They got 1,000 members. They're paid members. They pay $8 a month. They've got real revenue. and they're happy to contribute a percentage of that real revenue to the right sort of hosting. High performance, highly scalable, reliable, and delivering them what they need on a daily basis.
We've talked a lot about Buddy Boss, community stuff, LMS. You mentioned it, but could you just touch a little bit on WooCommerce? A lot of Lifter LMS users, as an example, also use WooCommerce. But how does a WooCommerce site perform on Rapid Cloud? And how do you think about speed on an e-commerce site?
Sure. I mean, e-commerce sites face the same challenges as the other things that we're talking about. Every user is looking at different stuff in their cart, different stuff in the checkout. And if you run a campaign and you have a lot of traffic coming to your website and everyone's trying to check out at the same time, your site can crash. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than to have your site crash while everyone's in a cart trying to check out.
On Black Friday or whatever.
Yeah. And Rapid is the fastest hosting for WooCommerce in the world. It is. And we have a WooCommerce settings page in there where Wes can talk to it more about Elasticsearch, ElasticPress, all the integration we've done in the live cart.
Yeah, so one of the challenges for a big WooCommerce site is that as it grows, especially as their product base grows or the number of products in their cart, they have big performance hits. One of the reasons for that is that WordPress search is not very efficient. It's a slow product. So we partnered with Elastic, which is a search infrastructure that pretty much takes all of what WordPress tries to do in a and this words and gives natural language search inside the WooCommerce dashboard. It's literally a drop-in. So you drop it into your site, and from that moment, when you start typing into the WordPress search bar, you're now using Elasticsearch. The Elasticsearch platform gives a 10 to a 50% performance improvement in search alone. It also adds native language and natural language search, which WordPress doesn't really do very well in the dashboard. The other component that we focused very heavily on is caching of WooCommerce. Now, it's the one area where we actually say page caching is okay if you do it properly. And we do it properly by page caching just the product pages. And those product pages are always in sync and always active, so much so that the customer doesn't even know that it's happening. If they go and edit a product inside their WooCommerce page, hit save and changes, it's instantly updated. The page caching is instantly flushed and reset for just that page. And from that point on, that page, the next time they visit, is going to be served with the latest up-to-date page caching. We built our platform on Lightspeed Enterprise. It's a web hosting server infrastructure designed specifically for very high concurrency. It's very similar to Apache, which everyone knows. It's sort of like the product that everyone starts within the hosting business, but is 10 to 50 times faster at handling concurrent loads. But again, on Rapid, the customer doesn't need to know any of that.
That's fantastic.
It just works in the background. Same as WooCommerce caching, same as Elasticsearch. They're just features of Rapid that come, same as object caching. They're just there.
You guys have definitely been marinating in this problem. I say great businesses really build the business around their customer, not the product, right? So you're like looking at this customer that has this really needy website that's really important and connecting people and ideas and stuff, but it needs a lot of resources. And you've really designed this around helping that person. And then having a great business is just going to be a side effect of taking really good care of that person.
One of the things we did do,
go ahead.
One of the things we did do is look at the ways that sites get slowed down.
Yeah.
And if we can identify something in WordPress that actually slows your site down, we will work on ways to improve that performance. One of the actual classic examples that few people understand is malware security. we go and we install Melcare, or we install WordFence, or we install all-in-one, security. When we do that, we install a plugin on our WordPress site that actually slows our site down.
Yeah.
Everyone knows, you install WordPress, it makes your site run slower, but it is more secure. So we looked at that and went, there's got to be a better way. We partnered with a platform called Monarchs. Monarchs is a server-level security platform. It's not a plugin inside WordPress. It runs on the server. It has no impact on WordPress performance at all, which means you don't need a WordFence plugin or a Melcare plugin or a
Backup plugin.
all-in-one security.
Yeah.
They're all offloaded. Our
Right.
backups are exactly the same. It's all at the server level. So what that does means that we're continually optimizing the WordPress stack to be as fast as it can with just the things that it really needs, which is your theme, your plugins, and your content. All those other overheads, be it security or backup.
Cron jobs, we have the option to run the WordPress cron at the server level.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys have thought of everything. You probably hear that from your customers a lot. Man, you guys have thought.
And we
Yeah.
will continue to innovate. We're talking about new products now.
I'll tell
In
you,
the future, we may offer other things like SEO.
Yeah, SEO, building SEO tools in there. But I can just tell you, when we go too deep talking about all the technical stuff, customer can get confused. But at a high level, you can go to our pricing page and see the benchmarks we've done. So we've benchmarked our Startup One plan, which is our most popular plan, against all the other popular managed WordPress hosts. We've done a series of benchmarks, and Rapid is the fastest at every single benchmark against every single popular managed WordPress host that we've benchmarked against. And we guarantee it. If the customer buys, they have a 14-day refund period. If it's not faster, we'll refund them. We guarantee it'll be faster.
Faster, it's free. I love that. And I did notice that, by the way, when I was on your pricing page. I'm like, I was really glad to see the benchmarking data, because it's like, okay, now you're helping people really understand.
Yeah.
And anyone that wants that data, the whole lot's available. It's a 150-page document that breaks down exactly how we benchmarked, exactly the processes we used, and people can go and replicate any of it. We've given them all the tools. So you want to replicate this on your own hosting? Here's how to go and do it. So we're very transparent about performance. We're very transparent about being in the performance community, active in the WordPress space, active in the make WordPress space, in the performance area. It's something that I would say we're passionate about because it impacts our customers.
Yeah, and they got to keep their site up and growing and scaling and all that. Well, go visit Rapid Cloud. That's RAPYD.cloud. Check it out. See what we've been talking about. Wes and Michael, this has been a great conversation. I love that you've married this problem, and not just recently. You've been working on this for years, and you have all the history with Buddy Boss and Lifter and WooCommerce and other more needy WordPress plugins. That's awesome. I'm so glad you created this.
Thank you.
So everybody can head on over to rapid.cloud. Is there anywhere else you want people to connect or other things for them to check out?
They can follow our YouTube channel. We're publishing tutorials and stuff there. But yeah, rapid.cloud is the starting point. You can find everything there. From the navigation in there, you'll see access to our knowledge base and our benchmarks and everything.
As I said, we're very transparent. Take a look at us. We tell people to go and look at love.rapid.cloud. It's our vanity page, all right? But it's a lot of really happy customers giving us honest testimonials about what Rapid's managed for their platforms.
They can also go to feedback.rapid.cloud if you want, where we publish a roadmap of everything that we've pushed live since the product went live. Is there, the things we're working on now, things that are planned, and we post updates just like we used to do at Buddy Boss. We're really open about our roadmap and things we're working on.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming back on the show, Michael and Wes, for the first time. Let's not wait 9 years until the next
Yeah.
episode, but I'm really glad to have you back on. Thanks so much for coming, guys, and keep up the great work at Rapid.
You too. Our pleasure. We love everything you're doing at Lifter, and it's an honor to come on here.